Hello and welcome to another episode of the Christian Reeve podcast. Today's guest is a musician, a poet, a creative, a host, person of many talents. Her name is Kiesha Croft. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. In
Good
busy
stuff.
mode, but excited. I don't know. Like in my life, things often go from project to project. So like my focus for a while has been music, still is, but the podcast has been like taken over lately, and I'm all for it because I love talking to people and exploring people's life stories.
Story. Yeah, no, I hear that. I think better busy than idle, that phrase comes to mind. I think it's all good when you have times where you can be idle. It's a lovely luxury. But if you get yourself too idle, I think better busy than idle.
It's a solid point as well. Being idle, being able to relax is a luxury. I think it often gets overlooked sometimes. And it's kind
Hmm.
of crazy to think about because I feel like when you're getting caught in the flow state, you're getting caught in that creative space and you're working like crazy, you can often forget about how important it is to just relax and take 5 minutes. But people do. I've had to
Yeah,
force myself to try and relax more
break.
and fun. Yeah, it's
Oh
well.
yeah, no, I have to force myself not to relax more. I have to
Oh,
I,
interesting.
I get into burnout quite easily. So I get really, really busy, get really enthusiastic, really overexcited. And then the energy takes a steep decline. So in those times, I have to kind of mentally coach myself and say, don't give up. You have to keep going. You have to push yourself through, allow myself a bit of a break so that I don't, completely fizzle out. But yeah, I have to avoid too much relaxation for me because once burnout hits, I could easily give up there.
What do you think leads to the burnout? What's the cause?
Trying to do too much. I find more so when I'm not organizing my time and my days. I'm always a bit of a busybody. I'm always trying to do something new or follow through with this project or start a new or spend time with. There's always something to do, and I have multiple facets to my life. So I have me as a mom. I have me as a friend. I have me as a working person. So I have me in my entertainment industry. So there's lots of different hats that I'm constantly trying to find the balance between. And I think trying to pick up a bit too much at any one time in any of those or all of those areas can quite easily lead to a bit of burnout, which, you get older and you get used to what to do and what not to do. But in general, it happens.
How many kids do you have? Like what ages?
So
Just
you
one.
think I had 10, right?
I
No,
don't know.
I just have one.
Just one. Yeah.
He has the energy of 10 kids. He has the attitude of 15 teenage girls. So,
Oh, you done him dirty
yeah,
there.
I couldn't imagine where he got it from,
Brilliant.
honestly. um, yeah, no, it's a lot though. I think what makes that a little bit more challenging, like I say, I'm very family orientated, so I always keep a space, like I say, for my nieces and my nephews. I see them regularly. Not just them, the young, oh, generally the youngers in my family all see me as an auntie. So I spend a lot of time doing kiddie stuff, and I also homeschool my son at the moment as well. So that adds to the bulk of what most parents would only do through part of the day. I feel like it's a full time, really full time job, if you know what I mean.
Like, how do you find the time to prioritize? Because obviously, a lot of the time when people talk about becoming parents, they talk about things like compromise and sacrifice and stuff. And from what I've heard over the years, everyone approaches it slightly differently.
Oh,
Like I've always thought it was really cool that you're able to do the things that you do and still be a parent. I've got good friends who do the same, like run businesses, do night school and shit, and still look after their kids and do a really good job at doing it. What do you think is like the maybe the let's say the key qualities that you need to make that work?
a lot of patience and a lot of organization. I find the days or the times where I'm not organized, it's a real struggle. I still do it because I have to. I feel as a personality trait, I feel it's what I owe to my son, given the circumstance I gave him life. And he might not have done what I wanted him to do as far as sticking out the school routine, but I still owe him an education. I still owe him that time. So whatever I'm trying to do, I always have to make sure I organize time to do that.
how exactly does homeschooling work? Because I've heard people talk about it, but I've never actually heard like the specifics of how it works.
So
So like,
there's a lots of different ways to do it. It's quite an open bracket. I think when most people think of the idea of homeschooling, I think they think very much like, you've got three or four kids and they're all sat around a desk and you're learning kind of one-on-one tutor type of thing. We're in the 21st century. We're in a very, very modern age. We've got the internet. We've got so many fantastic things that can help change how we teach our kids. So how I chose to teach my kids is a mixture of online tutoring. I am not a scientist. I am not a mathematician. I'm not an English teacher. I didn't anticipate trying to be in that role. So I wanted to make sure his core subjects were covered in by a professional, basically.
oh, like
So I
private
have
tutoring, you mean like kind of thing?
yeah, so he has online private tutoring for those three lessons, 3 days a week, and then we fill in the rest of his curriculum with things because he's ADHD, possibly autistic as well. We have to really tailor to what he's able to digest. That was one of the reasons why he's not in school. He wasn't able to manage the full day and the full amount of lessons. So they reduced his timetable in school. I've reduced his timetable at home. So we do things like science kits to get him really get him a really enjoyable experience of a subject. When it comes to things like music, I'll get him really, I've got loads of instruments being in the industry myself. So I get him really immersed in the playing. And then the next day we'll go over a bit of the theory of it and things like that. So that's how I structure my lessons with him. There's also a way where you can completely let the child dictate how and what they want to learn. So they say, okay, I'm interested in basketball, for example, and you can do a deep dive into that subject. That's another method that some parents choose to go by. And others just choose to look at literally a curriculum, like from a local school or something like that, find out where they can get similar resources and just teach as they would, as a teacher would. I find that quite monotonous and I couldn't stick it out if I wanted to. I thought if I'm going to have to homeschool them, it has to be something that we can both enjoy to a certain extent because I'd be failing him otherwise. So that's how I do it. I do a 50%. Some of the things I let him choose, like he wanted to do a little bit of a deep dive into AI. So we did that as his, I keep a section for special interest. So we do that in that lesson time. And then, yeah, the other half, I have the tutors and fun things, PE and all that kind of good stuff.
Why do you think? Okay, because I got to say, like with the English, the British school system, it's so fucking archaic. When we were at school, 'cause I know you're a few years young. Oh no, actually, I think we're around the same age, if I remember correctly.
Shh, shush.
Yeah, no, I know. You're 21 forever. Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah,
26.
yeah, yeah,
Plus
yeah. Plus tax, I'm gonna steal that. I'm 25 plus tax. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
hmm
Nah, but like when we were at school, it was dated then, and that was like 2000s.
So I think
Um,
for me, it's really interesting how it's still running very similar. Yes, there are slight upgrades and slight differences to do with technology
you're
and
right.
things
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
that. But all in all, we're still learning a bunch of kids of different abilities and different interests sat in front of one teacher in one room,
It's,
learning the same structures.
it just blows my mind because like it was like I said, it was out of date then, right? Like you said, there are technological updates, but even I remember when I was at school and we were learning IT. IT even then was outdated. We were
Yeah,
learning how to
how
use things, the
word art,
Dreamweaver,
word art. I
right? And
remember
it was
learning in
shit that
IT.
wasn't being used. You know,
The
like
most
Dreamweaver was obsolete for about 5 years at that point when I was learning in like 04, 05 or whatever the fuck it was. Like, so it blows my mind that these days. I mean, the irony in the IT classes, we were teaching the teachers. Yeah, we had better knowledge of IT because we were using it. We were that generation, and
I think that's an interesting point you touched on, and we can go back to that. But yeah, back to when we was at school. I think the most interesting thing I remember learning in IT was this program. It was essentially a coding program,
hmm.
but I remember doing the lesson, and they taught us how you program traffic lights. Like like you
Yeah,
gotta
I
make
remember
sure this
this.
one goes at this time, and the other one changes to green. I remember doing that, and that was as far as IT as a genuine lesson actually went. Other than that, they couldn't have taught us anything because we were already a step ahead of them, like you said. So I think it's really interesting bringing it forward to your other point. Somebody like my younger sister's generation is like a 9 year age gap, so she's slightly she's got a little bit more of the intel of the younger use of the technological world. And I wonder how, how it was for them growing up pretty much in the same system as us, and then versus the kids now who are being taught by us, because it's our generation now that are the teachers of those, so they've got a little bit more of a clue, but also not, because they're still teaching a structured curriculum. And just to close off on your point, I think I have my opinions on it, but I'm in no position right now to make the changes that I'd love to see in the education sector. I've always thought it was a dated system, and my theory was with my son. This is why it was hard for me when he was going through what he went through and got kicked out of school and things like that. I was like, I'm not actually fussed about you doing well academically, okay? Just do your lessons, pass, just get a pass. I just want my son to have the experience, the social side of what it's like to have a normal, school life. Go in and meeting your friends in the morning and going to the shops, having a little bit of a laugh and all the little jokes and the things that you can share when you finish school. That's the things that I wanted my son to gain from the education system. And unfortunately, it wasn't academic education. It was more, of course, that's a part of it, but that wasn't where. I don't worry about him. He's a clever kid, and we have lots of resources in this day and age. I don't worry about that side. It's the social element. I think there's something to that part of it being a place where you meet your friends and you socialize around peers your own age. I find that that's worth keeping.
How did they justify kicking him out? Because I would argue that on some level it's discriminatory. Like, you've got ADHD, you've got autism. In this day and age, like back when we were kids, that we were still learning about that stuff. Whereas now it's a bit more clear cut. It's a bit
Very
more.
much more open, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's reasonable adjustments. There's things you can do. There's, say moving to a specialist school, whatever the case may be. Like, can you talk to like maybe their
Yeah,
failures on
so
their
so
part?
there was plenty of things. I can't fault the school to an extent,
Okay.
because as far as he has an EHCP, which for those that don't know, it's a education and healthcare plan. It'll go with him throughout his education. And that was given to him when he was in primary school because they suspected then that he has ADHD.
Okay.
So even without a diagnosis, they said, we want him on this EHCP. He will need it going forward. Great, I'm grateful for that. So now when he's in high school and he's presenting certain behaviors, and I'm going to these meetings and saying, look, okay, I understand it's not acceptable. We have to make adjustments so that we can meet in the middle. They made those adjustments. So
Okay.
hats off to them. They made the adjustments. My problem with the system, and again, like I say, I can't argue with them to an extent. The extent where my argument comes in is, okay, you've tried these things, but this is a boy who's got needs and he needs time to process things. And you've trialed this for 2 weeks, and in that 2 weeks, he's failed that trial. And it is not enough time for him to get that process back into the swing. So now it's 2 weeks later. You've written that theory off. That whatever we were trying off, and we're going to try a new thing because that's not working. It got to a certain point where I was telling them, I understand that you're ticking all the boxes to say that you're helping him, but it seems to me like you're just ticking those boxes so that you can ship him off. And that, it's not right. You're not actually getting any benefit from the things that you're saying that you're trying. You've just got it on paper to say that you've tried them. So that's how they justified kicking him out. And by the time it got to the actual not appeal, the date of the meeting that was going to decide whether he was kicked out or not, I was burnt out by then. I'd been through so many meetings and so many up and down. I was stressed out. I'd recently, quit my other full-time job that I was doing alongside everything else to try and manage this. So by that point, I was just like, okay, do you know what? I'm not even going to appeal it. I can't be bothered. I'm just going to take my boy and give him the education that he needs. So that's what I did. And it's not right. I don't agree with it being the right way. But at that point, that was the options that I had.
Yeah, no, and I remember you telling me about it at the time, and I completely agree with the decision. I just think it's bullshit that you had to.
I think a
to
lot of
do
it is
that.
bullshit. Do you know what's very interesting as well? I remember watching, and this goes back a long time, like a good couple of years. He's been having these issues since primary school. So it's not a surprise. I think the surprise was more how the school dealt with it and thinking that it was working, but then realizing in hindsight, actually, you're kind of just ticking boxes. I remember watching a documentary, and I don't like playing the race card. I don't think that's completely at play. But what the documentary was highlighting was the education system from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and how you had it was called Subnormal. It was a BBC documentary. It's really interesting. And just how people were discriminated against. A lot of Black and Caribbean and African children were put into special schools because their behaviors weren't seen as normal, or they were speaking patois, so they were told they were dumb because patois wasn't English. Things like they didn't know what the word for a tap was because they call it a pipe, so the teachers are writing them off. Do you know what I mean? And I couldn't help when I was watching it not wanting to feel what I was feeling, but I was like, is this happening to me and my son? Is this happening in this day and age? Because it feels like what I'm watching here, even though I know it shouldn't. It definitely feels like very much the same thing where maybe it's not the race element, but maybe it's the fact of he's in between being a SEN child that's got that many needs that needs to be in a specialized school and being a child that, you know what, he's just a bit too unruly for a mainstream school, a bit too. At times he can, at times he can't. So he falls in between the cracks of these places. And the only place that the current systems put a child like that in this climate is a PRU, which is a pupil referral unit, which I am terrified of letting my little cocky little 13-year-old join, because I don't think it'll bode well.
I remember when everything happened in the States with the George Floyd stuff, and I remember the response in the UK. You know, a lot of people were saying like, if you think racism is dead, then you're just blind. And you know, it's interesting because yeah, I've seen racism, I've witnessed it, I've called it out over the years. Institutional racism exists, and if you can't see it,
Yeah.
it's because that you don't have to deal with it. That's the reality.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start to poke and prod and you look at things, you can't help but see it. And in an instance like this, I do look at it like you were talking about quotas and stuff like that. That's a real thing that happens. That's a real thing that companies do where they'll be like, okay, we need X amount of people from minority backgrounds, da 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 da.
Yes, we'll just hire that amount of people.
And
We won't.
it's bullshit. It's like it should be based on merit. It should be like who's the best person for the job, who is the most qualified, regardless of background, gender, race, whatever. Who's the best person for this fucking
For
job,
that job. Yeah.
right? And I remember like when that George Floyd stuff was happening, I remember just feeling like, don't get me wrong, I think racism is one of those things that's always going to exist on some level,
I
but
think people underestimate it always has in one way, shape, or form.
right,
It's just how we choose to highlight it and who's playing the victim at this given time.
yeah, but it's like okay, if you're talking general people, like what is racism? Racism is ignorance. It's a lack of
It's a prejudice
education.
based on an image of somebody being
Nothing.
different from yourself. That's it.
Yeah, right. It's just bollocks, but it's real. It exists, and when you look at the system, when you look at the reality of what people have to deal with, like I know that every friend that I have that's from a minority background has a story.
Hmm.
Like that's the reality of it, and you don't see it unless it's affecting you. And I'm not saying like that people that haven't experienced it can't see it. It's just that you know the extent to which you see it is very different. You know, like I'll give you an example. Like I work with a lot of people from African backgrounds, Nigerian backgrounds, people that have been in the country maybe 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever. And I remember the apprehension when they first met me because they didn't know if they could trust me.
Hmm. No,
Nothing
I
was
hear that. Yeah, there's a
nothing
big
was
part of that.
nothing was said, but I can feel it.
Hmm.
and you spend 5 minutes, you work with each other, and it's like, oh no, actually, you're cool. Okay,
Okay, yeah,
cool.
he's safe. He's safe.
Right, but there's
Funny
this,
you
and
talking about that. I think that like slang words and things like safe. That's kind of where that comes from. Oh, that's yeah. It's literally safe. You can go there. It's okay.
I wondered like, oh, why don't you trust me? You don't know me. Like, what's the issue? But I realized that like probably since day one, since the day they came into the country, it's been a case of having to prove yourself, having to answer to things, being treated differently because you're from somewhere. I've fucking seen this shit. Like, so for those who don't know, I work a lot of hours in hospitality, and I've seen and heard racism on like a wild fucking level, like shit
Hmm.
that you wouldn't believe in this day and age. And it'll be like, oh, it's so fucking sad to talk about. Like, okay, the workers, those people. Sorry, what? What do you mean?
Hmm.
You know,
Which people? Yeah.
I'll fucking call it out. I don't give a shit. Like, I've called it out. I'm like, why don't you fucking say what you really feel, man?
Hmm.
And it'll be the classic thing. Well, you and me, buddy. You know, we're not like them. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah. So
nah.
that
What
like
do you
you're putting
mean?
in on your,
Why don't
you're
you?
bringing a part of
Yeah, I was like,
this.
why don't you say what you mean, man? Because I don't know what you
Hmm.
mean. Like, I'll play ignorant. I'll be like, I don't know what you mean. What do you mean? And they're not willing to say. And
Yeah,
like, that's the thing with racists is just like, it's the same thing every time, especially in this country. Because like, we call it out, and I'm glad we do, but that doesn't solve it. It just means it gets pushed out in the open, right?
yeah,
So, what does it look like to be a racist in the UK in this day and age? Well, it'll be something like this. Someone will come up to you, they'll be really quiet, and they'll be like, huh, oh, I'm not racist, but
as
I
soon
kind of
as you
feel
say that,
like
as soon as you say that, I have dismissed everything that is about to come from your lips. As soon
it's
as
not.
I hit, now I'm not racist
Ah,
or anything, but and it's not like I dismiss, like I'm not listening. I'm listening because I know I'm about to be entertained. I know, I know, and I think that's where we've gotten to with racism. I think for the recipient of the racism, if you like, I think we're kind of like we're almost laughing at it now, where it's like,
yeah.
really, do you know what? Let me see where you're gonna go with this. That is that kind
Honestly,
of attitude to it.
it's like that. Like every friend that I have that has a story like that, I'm like, I'm surprised they didn't call it out. But they're
Because it's
like,
almost
well,
entertaining. It's like, you know what, you're
yeah.
gonna make a fool of yourself right now, and I'm just gonna okay, you know. And I don't know. I think it is sad. It's ridiculous that it still is happening, but it's not going to change anytime soon, and it won't change because people are ignorant and people like to stay around things that keep them comfortable. So unless people are willing to step outside of their little comfort bubbles and explore new cultures and understand why these people do things this way or why that person looks like that, or even just down to history itself, you don't even have to go down to the physical features of it. If you look at history and the story of a people's, all of it just is so irrelevant because we're all so intertwined. It's ridiculous.
And you miss out on so much. Like, I'll give you an example, right? I think I might have told you this story, but I'll share it here. Like, so I did volunteer work during COVID,
Yeah.
and I was all around Manchester, and we were doing. So I worked for a charity called Mustard Tree, and it
Oh yeah, I know
helps.
that
You
mustard
know the
tree.
one, yeah, yeah. They help
Yeah.
the homeless, they help the destitute. Really, really great company, great organization. And for the most part, we would do like I helped everywhere. I did like a bit of the retail store. I did. They have like food where you give it to the homeless and stuff. A
Yeah,
little
a
bit of
little
this, a little
bit.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the main thing I would do is I'd show up and I'd help with the vans. So we would like move furniture from different parts of the city. So we would go to like an affluent area, take the donations, bring it back to base, or we'd deliver it to like, I don't know, maybe someone who's recently off the streets, help them like furnish their apartment or whatever, stuff like
Mhm.
that. It was really cool. And you saw some shit. It really humbled me in a way. Like, I grew up poor, but like it still was a lot. And, I felt like I was quite proud to do it. I remember my family at the time saying they were really proud of me for that. And it was cool, man. But anyway, to the point, I worked with this guy He was a 60-year-old guy, fucking amazing shape. Jesus Christ. You'd think he was like mid 30s.
Mm.
Um, he was of Jamaican and I think Ghanaian descent. I'm sorry, Hayden, forgot that wrong. If he's ever watching this or listening, but leaned more towards the Jamaican side, I would say, certainly musically. And it was great. We would jump on the vans together. He'd play his music, and I'd be like, "Oh, I know this," or "I don't know this," and he'd just educate me, and it'd be great. I loved it.
Mhm.
But I remember one time, he asked me as a favor, he's like, because it was all volunteer, I didn't get paid for any of that. He was like, "Hey, we're probably gonna miss the lunch. Do you mind if you come with me? We'll just do these jobs, and I'll take care of lunch." I was like, "Yeah, cool." And he was like,
Yeah,
"I've got."
yeah.
Right. And he's like, "I've got a treat for you." And I was like, "Oh, what do you mean?" So he takes me to this bakery. I've never seen or heard of it. It's like,
I know which bakery it is already. I
right.
already know which bakery it is.
And I'd never been there.
Did they have like loads and loads of bread on the back of the wall? It was quite a small bakery, and
Yeah,
then
tiny,
they
tiny,
sold
tiny.
patties.
Yes.
I know exactly which
Yeah.
bakery that is. That is
So,
OT Bakery in Old Trafford, Manchester.
yes, that sounds right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He took me there and I had a Jamaican patty, possibly for the first time. And I was like, damn, this is good. I was like, how have I never had this before? And I remember just thinking in that moment, like, stuff like that is why if you're a racist, like, or whatever, you're ignorant, you're missing out on so much in life, man. Like, not just of different cultures, but the human experience.
But you know what's for exactly? It's the ignorance, and this is why I think we can. I understand why people still feel racism and put it on this bad pedestal that they do put it on, but I think it's the ignorance is the real issue. And I can say people like bless her, I hope she don't mind me saying this, but my nana, she's I wouldn't call it ignorant, but it definitely is. If she's not interested in it, she doesn't want to know about it. She
Right.
doesn't want to
Yeah.
hear about it. And as somebody, like as a family member, as a granddaughter, I find that quite like I'll invite her to some shows that I'm doing or things that I know I know she'll have a lovely time there and she will not budge. And it's exactly what you're saying. I can see how much she's missing out on, and it's because she just refuses to. And it's either, oh, I don't associate with people that do that type of stuff, or oh no, I'm too old for that. And it's like, come on, let all those notions go and live a little. Just live a little, experience this big, beautiful, various world.
Missing out, man. Missing
Yeah.
out. Let's move
Yeah.
on. How did you get into music and poetry? Let's go. Let's go. Let's get into
Oh,
it.
I used to write from being very, very young. Like I have I have books and sketch pads. I've always been a creative. From when I was like 6, 7, 8 years old. And I literally have poems in there that are far too deep to be written by a 6-year-old. And it's like, so I've always had that spark. Lived my life a little bit, grew up, had a few life experiences. And then I think it was after when I started to take it seriously, like actually wanting to write and do something with it and wanting to perform. After I'd had my son, and then I broke up with his dad maybe about 2 years after he was born. And during that whole process, I remember just standing in my kitchen and I was just having these thoughts, like, but they were rhyming. It was literally like a wave of thoughts. And I was like, imagine the components of the family unit as a body. And there was an image that went with it as well. And it was just like an experience where the whole writing thing came full circle for me. And this thought was passing my mind, and I was formulating this poem in my head. And I stood there and I had something in my hand that wasn't a pen, and I was like, I need to put this down and get a pen really quickly because if I don't, this is going to be gone. And it's brilliant. Like I had to admit myself, whatever's going on in here is brilliant. I'd listen to this. So I got my pen, I wrote it down, and I must have read it back to myself about 7 times, like during the process of writing it. But then once it was complete, I read it back and I remember just thinking, that makes so much sense. Oh my gosh, this is all the shit that was clogging up my brain, and it all makes so much sense now that it's written. Did I write that? Me? Because I'd listened to that advice or whatever the hell, whatever that's saying. And it was that experience that kind of brought that out of me. Then I phoned my friend, and I was like, right, I know, girl, this is a bit weird, but I wrote a poem. We was like literally just out of nowhere. I just called my friend and I was like, just hear me out, okay? So I read her the poem and she was like, oh my goodness, girl, like you've got like I've got goosebumps on my arms and this and that. So I was like, okay, so it's definitely not just me. That did something. And I think it was that experience. From then, I felt like a weirdo and I wanted to tell everybody this poem. I was sat on the bus wanting to tell the person next to me, do you want to hear a poem? And I thought, you can't do that. So I had
I
to
mean,
take it.
Morrissey did it. That's
Yeah, I
apparently.
probably did once or twice. But
Muzz told me that. He told me that Morrissey was way famous, like before he became famous, for just harassing people on the bus and like reciting poetry to them.
I
Apparently.
can relate. I'm just saying, I can understand why one would think. It was just this intense feeling of like, I have these words to share. That's the
Mhm.
best way I can put it. I have these words and I would love to share them. So that got me kind of into the whole open mic gig. Alongside writing the poetry, I then reconnected with my younger brother, and he was a young black boy trying to find his little way in life, and he was writing his music, but he was almost falling into the wrong tracks. So I was
Mm.
like, stick around me, let's get this music thing going, let's write some more. And I just had him round every day and we just wrote and sang and jammed, and that's how the kind of musical element happened. I kind of not looked back since. Like, obviously, life has happened in the meantime, and things have. It's been about 10 years now since the beginning of that process. But yeah, it's been a really nice experience, and that's how it began.
You mentioned the open mic. I wanted to talk about this in length, like because it's not every day that you kind of propose doing an open mic night. You know, like it's how did that come together? Let's talk about that.
Fate, fate, and a fluke. Excuse me. So a little bit of a backstory before we get into all of this because it's relevant. It's not
Okay.
necessary, but it is relevant. So I lost my mum when I was 13. My mum has an older cousin, younger cousin. My mum has a cousin who's older than me. That cousin basically owns the pub that the open mic night was running from. Now, I got invited to attend the open mic. He's come round to see me many years after my mum has passed, and he's basically just saying, not seeing you for ages, just checking in, which was lovely. And I probably, you know what, I shout out to him because I needed that at that time.
Yeah.
So yeah, he checked in. He wanted to see what I was doing. I told him about the music and the poetry. So he says, "Go to this open mic night, etc., etc." I went there. I wasn't a stranger to open mic nights at that point. Like I say, I'd been in the circuits. I'd done a couple of them, you know, in my years growing up as a young adult. And it got to a point where the person who was hosting it basically did something wrong and they'd lost their position. And I was just put, I was a cocky little bitch, excuse my language, but I was. And I heard about this and I was like, oh no, what a shame. No, I had, no, I wasn't
Nice.
like that.
My
I had
time.
my first hosting gig before that, like my very first
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
That was also a fluke. It wasn't supposed to be a hosted event. And I ended up helping a lot with like directing how the show went and
Cool.
building things up. And then they ended up saying, I ended up just on the night, like, do you want me to just carry this night because it's got no direction, nobody seems to be carrying it. I did it. They basically hired me after that, so I got cocky off of that and I was like, I can host. You need a host for the open mic? I can host. I didn't consider where it took me to now. At that point I was literally just thinking I can do this. So, you know, I've just done this little hosting gig. I love the open mic circuit. I want to be able to open up a stage. So yeah, that would be lovely. If you don't mind, I can host. I don't think he believed me, but I do think he was willing to throw me a line. Is that the word? Is that the expression? Yeah. So he threw me a line, and you know what? It went really well for the first 6 months. Then it didn't go so well for about another 6 months, and that was the learning curve. That was the part where I had to learn how to actually do the job and not just wing it.
Why was it going badly, if you don't mind me asking? Or what was the lesson you learned there?
My assessment is, so obviously I inherited a night that was already running.
Mm.
I wasn't from the same category of music that it was running off of. I
Right.
don't know if you remember who was running it before. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention if anyone's getting to get in trouble. But it's very, very good artist. Very much rock. Very, very much rock. I am more R&B, hip hop, bit of soul, bit of jazz, all of that. So I think it was trying to find my own audience, and not just for me personally, but for the type of people that I want to be on the stage as well. Don't get it twisted. I will never ever take rock out of that. I love rock myself. I love listening to it. It's just not in my wheelhouse for performing.
Mm.
So I think for the first part, it was a lot of people realizing, okay, this night is a little bit different from what it was already established as, and then I had to just learn to do the job. I had to learn how to promote. I had to learn how to like get the actual word out there and how to organize the night so that I could get like a bit of what do you call it now? Not a waiting list. My brain's gone blank. You know what I mean? Sign
Mm-hmm.
up, get a sign up process, and just understanding things that make it better, like the ambience of the room, like learning how to turn the lights down at the front of the room and the correct lighting for the show. The big difference with the open mic that I run is the staging is fantastic. It's not like a regular open mic stage.
Yep.
So I think for me, that was the focal point of what the night was. I want people to be able to, like I felt when I went there, have an experience of a stage and get your confidence up there to match that level.
I think ironically as well, because I've been going to the same venue. Shout out to Grand Central. To Grand Central since 2023. I've done gigs there. I've hosted there. Done more open mics than I care to mention. And of course, now we run them together on Wednesdays. And I think that what I've noticed is, to some extent, it goes through waves. So you will have quieter periods, but when we build it up over the last, say 6 months, the sign up helps to some extent. I think it's
helps
helped a lot.
majorly.
But
I think it helps for our side to know week by week what to kind of anticipate. Is it going to be full? Is it going to be a bit quieter? Have we got time to do more of our own stuff? But yeah, sorry, go on.
no,
Interrupted
no.
you.
All I was gonna say is that, like, it's funny how in this time of like technology, the power of word of mouth is still there. Because
Oh
I feel
yeah.
like that's the, like, I'm sure you've noticed as well. You see the same faces. They might not always show up every week, but they show up
No, but
regularly.
you get, and that I think that's one of the things that I'm proudest of in the night is I've had people come to me and say, no, it's your night that we come for. We come for the ambience, we come for the environment that you've created. And that's a really, really wonderful thing, and it's great to know that that still has that power, because it could get lost in in the hodgepodge of online advertisements and stuff.
I mean, let's talk about it, man. Like, open mics. I mean, I can't speak for other places, but I've played many back in London, here in Manchester. I've seen it. We've had conversations about it.
Hmm.
When you go to the Grand Central, and I know this is like very biased, but fuck it, it's true. If you come to the one at Grand Central, you're going to see more of a show. You're going to see a better, more inclusive kind of, I would say, inviting experience where people actually give a shit about you performing. If you go to the other open mic nights, it's kind of hit and miss. Shout out to Michael Webster. I think he does a very good one here in the city. But that's the thing. Like, when it comes to what you lay out, it's a combination of who shows up and also what you lay out. So if it come to ours, if you go to Michael Webster's, you'll get like a certain vibe. It'll be inviting. It'll be inclusive. Great. But I think certain venues have.
Are you referring to, there's an element of two things that I notice in general in the open mic scene. One is things can be very clicky. And
Yep.
by that, I mean, like, yeah, I appreciate that we get some of the same people returning, but I get to a point where if I'm having the same people week in, week out, I will start to push them up or down on the list
Mm.
just to make sure we've still got space for newer people to come in. Never push them away, but always just keeping it fresh, making sure that it's not repetitive for the people that are watching. So for one, I find that it can be quite clicky at other open mics where it tends to be the same people round and round again. or there's a bit of snobbiness, and by that I mean maybe it's a closed genre, but they've not been open about that, if you know what I mean. So they've made it seem like it's open to anybody, but you come as a hip hop artist and they don't want that. Or
I,
if it's not kind of like, if you're not semi-pro already and you've not got a really good level of quality of performing, you get turned down. To an extent I can understand, but that defeats the object of open mic. You should be running a showcase. That's, you know what I mean?
I will say I never notice it at ours. I never notice it at Michael's. Outside of that, I have seen that. I won't name venues, but there are certain places where I've shown up and it's very like, okay, next, okay, next. Very just get up, perform, get off stage,
Get
no one
off.
gives a shit. And I don't know, like that's what I like about doing, and this is why I approached you, because I liked what it's like at GC. I like the vibe. I like how you're not discarded. You don't feel like you're
Bear
in the
with me.
way.
Well, I'll talk to myself then. So that was the ADHD creeping up in my son. I told him be quiet. I'm on a podcast. And he's forgotten that, and he's probably playing Fortnite and got mad at somebody. So we all have to hear about it. I think it's hilarious. Christian, you're going to watch this back and watch me talking to myself, and this is a regular occurrence, by the way. Cheers.
Oh, I was so desperate, man.
Said, no, he was screaming before on his game, so it was just like, you forgot that I'm on a podcast, haven't you? Shut up.
Nah, it's all good. Like, that's the one that benefits actually of not having to do it live, is you can just, I can just edit this shit out and it's fine.
Oh yeah, you're gonna have to laugh when you watch it back, because I was literally talking to myself for a few minutes. So cheers.
They'll never know. All right, cool. Back to it. So, I mean, do you know what? I will say this. I've never noticed it at the nights that we do. I think I will. I will say there are certain artists that have shown up. This is what I've noticed.
Cool.
There are people that show up and they have a fucking attitude problem. And I would say this: if you're watching and you've shown up to a night of ours and you had attitude, guess what? As soon as you give me attitude, I'm really not giving a shit about your performance now. Like, because I do the sound and I'm like, you know, like there's been a few, I won't name any names lately, where I'm like, oh, that's how it is. All right, guess what? I'm taking a cigarette break during your set. Fuck you.
Uh-huh.
And like,
Whoops.
I mean, that and like introductions, you know, like there's some people that have never, like, I've noticed that they'll introduce themselves and make connection with you, but they won't with me. And I'm like, cool. All right. I see how it is. It is what it is. And that's very clicky bullshit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, look, I'm here for everyone, man. If that's going to be your attitude, so be it. I think a lot of that is maturity. I feel like people our age don't really act that way.
I think when people have had enough, when you've had a little bit at least of stage experience, you know better than to don't piss the sound guy off. Or do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that as if you're the sound guy, but that's kind of the feeling that you get when you go to perform it anywhere. You know who you should and shouldn't piss off, you know? And you shouldn't try and piss anybody off, let's be honest. But if you are going to, maybe make some choice decisions and not the people that are running the show.
I mean, look, it's always the. I'm sorry to say, it's always the younger folk who have like something to prove. And I get it, man. You're passionate. You know, you think the world of yourself. Great, I'm happy for you, but be polite. Or guess what? You're not fucking welcome, man. Like, you can have all the attitude you want in the world, but that doesn't make you cool. Being cool is being respectful, being kind, being humble. You know,
So I agree with that, but I'm from a generation where that was can't even say that was cool, because when we were younger, you wouldn't have said that it's cool, but it was, so to speak. if you know what I mean. You wouldn't have
Yeah.
said, oh, yeah, it's dead cool if you're really polite and respectful and this and that. No. But you also wouldn't think it was cool, that guy over there acting like a complete arse and being really disrespectful. You'd know that that wasn't. And I think I know I cannot be the only person who sees and knows this truth, but and I'm talking my own son, I'm also not proud of him on this front in some ways. This next generation have got an attitude freaking problem. I'm sorry, you don't know respect. You wouldn't know respect if it came and slapped you in the face. I'd know, because I had to teach my son once or twice, and he still doesn't know. I'm like, and I've come to the conclusion now where I do definitely, I know it's a generational thing, but where did it go so far? How?
I will say it's upbringing.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
like there are
brilliant. And
people,
you've got people
I
who,
meet, right? If you're in your early 20s right now or late teens, it's you've either got an attitude problem or you're very well raised and well adjusted, and that's the reality.
where are
There
the
is a bit of
well-raised and
generalization.
well-adjusted ones? Can I meet them, please?
They do exist. Hey, they do exist. Take the open mics that we do. There are people that perform that
Yeah.
19, 20, 21,
And do you know
and
what
they're
else I
very,
find? My
very
son's so
polite.
respectful to me, but when I see, like, if I see him and he doesn't know that I'm there, like if I'm coming to pick him up from somewhere, if I'm sneaking up on him, literally spying on him around the corner, he is so freak. I'm like, there's the kid I raised. There's the politeness. There's the respect. As soon as it comes around me, and that's the bit that I struggle with, because I'm like, hold on, I'm the one who earned the respect. What the frick's going on here? I'm the one. Yeah. But it's like, as soon as I come around that respect, it's like, I don't want to say it becomes a borderline friendship. It definitely does, but that's not what I'm on about. It's like the persona that he portrays when I'm not there. He keeps the respect up. As soon as I am around, I'm like, why? What happened? So it leaves me with the impression that you're not respectful and you're not this. And then do you know what I mean?
It's testing, isn't it? It's testing the waters. That's what that is.
These
It's
waters don't
testing.
need testing. These are not uncharted territories. You
No,
need
I
to.
know, but I mean that's what it is. Like, you know, like my mum was very strict when I was growing up. I always said firm but fair. I
Mm,
still to this day say that. Did she go overboard sometimes? Absolutely. But she always took the time to explain things and explain why. And like the biggest one I always turn back to is, and she doesn't even remember saying this, but it's such a good point. We had an argument one time, and she said, "Do you know why I'm so hard on you?" And I was like, flippantly, like I think I was like 14 at the time. I was like, "Why?" And she said, "Because if you are showing that level of disrespect to someone in public, they will they will punch you in the
Can you
face,
can
and
you
I
can
won't
you
be
give
there to
your mum a
protect you."
big hug for me, please? Give your mum a big hug. 'Cause I'm like,
But
the
it's so
reason
true.
why I
And
am the way with my son, I look at him and I'm like, you think it's a joke, but if I'm your mom, I love you, and I'm punishing you for this behavior. Imagine what the guy on the street who doesn't know or care, the racist dude over there,
yeah,
imagine what he thinks and he's going to do to you when you're a grown person doing that.
I mean, like, let's think about like how many times we've done an open mic and someone got disrespectful, rude, too drunk, whatever, and it's a situation that's very easily sorted out, right? But I always look at it and I'm always like, when we get too drunk, we know the line. We're like, "Oh, okay, time to go home, time to leave, time to sort this out, right?" If there's an altercation, an issue, we know to just let it be, whatever. If you're defending someone else, it's different. You know, you do tend to pipe up and be like, hey, listen, because maybe that person can't defend themselves. And so you do pipe up and you do say something. But the point is, I can't count how many fight situations I've seen over the years in that pub, for example, and been like, this could have easily been avoided if you just turn around and be like, hey, you know what? Maybe we had too much to drink. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Shake hands and you
Maybe it's
walk away.
time to go home.
Literally. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it
yeah.
blows my mind. And
I got to. I mean, I wasn't going to fight anybody, but I definitely got to that. I need to go home last week. I got, I got to that point, but that's what Ray and his nephews will do to you. So
And it happens, and like you said earlier, it's a learning curve. But again, I think maturity is also understanding your limits, understanding, yeah, when it's time to go home, when it's time to just back away, accept something. Apologizing seems to be a big one for many people.
It shouldn't be so
Just
hard. Personally, I'm a big talker and I'm not afraid to share my opinion. So sometimes I've been wrong. And as soon as I am, I'm very humble at that point, and I go, do you know what? Sorry, my bad. I mean, I'm not afraid to be proven wrong. Just prove me wrong. That's my only point. And I don't understand why people have such a difficulty to get to that point. I can, to an extent, especially in a younger mind where you have this almost anxiety about the truth of it coming out, or whatever it is that you need to apologize. You're still in denial of, almost. I can understand that to a bit, but again, that comes down to maturity. Once you get over that, there's really no excuse, and you should just be able to own your behavior, for good or bad. Everyone makes mistakes. Everybody does good and bad things.
it's like I don't lie. Have I lied in my life? Yes. Do you know why I don't lie? A, because it's the wrong thing to do. B, because I don't want to look over my shoulder every 5 seconds. And C, because it's disrespectful. And if the worst situation is that you tell the truth and someone's like, oh man, I can't believe you did that or you said that or whatever, guess what? So much worse when you lie and they find out that you lied and now they can't trust you and XYZ. Like the thing that people seem to be scared of is, oh, I worry because what this person's going to say or think of me, da, 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 da. And it's like,
Self-defeating thought. It's the self-defeating thought.
it's like, oh, you fucked up, man. Everyone fucks up. But
Mm.
it's so much worse to lie about it. Don't lie. Just
Now
don't
I got
lie.
now I got to think that you didn't fuck up, and then realize that you did fuck up, and now I got to think about how long you've been lying to me about fucking up for.
And it only gets worse because it's like, oh, if they lied about this, what else did they lie about?
Remember that other time when a similar thing happened? Do you think? Yeah,
Just don't
yeah, and
lie.
then there's no point. I used to lie a lot as a child, like as a
Same.
young person. I used to spin a web of lies, and I can tell you exactly why I did it. I thought I was smarter than everybody else, and I thought I can lie my way out of anything, so I don't have to get in trouble. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of the time it works. That's why I lied so much. But I don't think it's good, and I don't think it's healthy. And I did learn eventually, when I did start to slip up and get caught out, those were the learning curves, where it was like, as much as it was a bad habit, if you like, to keep on bullshitting my way through things, it was when the shit hits the fan and I can't lie myself out of this anymore. Well, I'm stuck in this web and I've got nowhere to go. And all for what? All for what, though? Because I was avoiding the truth, or just because I thought I didn't have to deal with it? So I don't. I can't trust liars. I can't deal with liars, but I have an understanding of why you might come up with a lie in any given circumstance. I'm a very rational and a very, I like to see both sides of the story in any scenario. So I don't trust liars and I don't appreciate them. But I'm always searching for a level of understanding. Why are you choosing this behavior? Why, like, give me a reason, give me an understanding. But yeah, no, the worst thing for me, this is what I say to my son as well. I don't want a relationship, especially with such a tender age, where it's built up on any kind of lie, because then I really can't trust what you're doing. And I'm an overprotective parent. I know that, and I'm not going to change. I won't apologize for it. I'm going to be that way. But if he's honest with me, I can loosen the reins a lot more. It doesn't matter what he does. I've lived a council estate life. I'm quite, there's not a lot you can say that I'm going to be that surprised at. So honesty is the best policy. And I think when it comes to relationships, not just like me and my son, but like boyfriend and girlfriend relationships, husband and wife relationships, the same thing. You see it time and time again, where it's all stems from a lie, whether it's a big lie or a little lie. That seed of distrust, it makes a relationship a toxic one.
100%. All right, let's switch it up. Let's have some fun. What's the craziest thing you've ever seen at an open mic night?
Craziest thing. Was it swords? was doing an open mic night.
Swords?
So it was, they weren't real swords. They were like, oh,
Oh,
I
like
wish I could remember.
ceremonial.
It was like something from a medieval flipping, like if you was walking through a medieval town and there'd be like a juggler and some kind of show with the like midgets and stuff going on. That it was like that, but they came to the pub and they were just, I swear it was swords. I don't think they were real swords, but they were like doing sword dances, like old school. And by old school, I mean medieval sword dancing. Um, yeah, right around the pub. It was fantastic. It was really entertaining. But did I expect that at open mic? No. No,
Yeah.
I didn't expect that on any day of the week. But yeah, no, it was brilliant though. It really was. I'll have to find what they're called and send you some videos.
All right.
Um, never seen anything else crazy. Mm, no, but one of the best, like surprising kind of acts. This guy called Squeeze Box Dave. I'm sure he won't mind me shouting him out. He has one of them squeeze boxes, accordion. What is it
Mm,
called?
mm.
With
Yeah.
a piano on the side. I'm not good with the names.
Accordion. Yeah, 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 that's right.
Also, but the type of music that he was doing, it was like, sorry, it was like dancing. Just it was a really really good mix that he did on this accordion. It was like, I can't think of any of the songs that he was doing. I can imagine him doing that. I can't get no sleep. Dun, 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 like really danced it upbeat. A really good mix. Anyway, he was fantastic, and I think it was just because his attire, the way that he came in,
Mm.
it looked like he was going to do something a lot more boring, if you know what I mean. It
Yeah, I get what
did.
you mean. I get what you mean.
It did. And then he got up there and he did his thing. And I was like, you know what? Got everyone up and dancing. Let's go.
Right
So
on.
yeah, those are the acts that I really enjoy. The ones that take you by surprise and you go, oh, dark horse, I see.
Best and worst open mic performances.
I actually think one of my best, personally, my best, and it wasn't necessarily my best performance, but it was the best as an overall experience, was the first time I went to perform at GC. And I was sat there, he put me on last. So I sat there all night patiently
Jeez,
waiting
that's
my
mean.
turn. Yeah. I thought I was a special guest as well, but whatever. It put me on last and I sat there
Headliner,
patiently
what do you
waiting
mean?
and I cheered myself up because it was a new open mic,
Yeah,
new
yeah.
territory. And he ended up getting everybody those that were left at that point anyway. Everyone was up and dancing, they were all singing along with me, and I just, it just was a really good energy. And it left a lasting impression on me because I was like, first of all, I didn't expect that from that venue. As you know, GC is heavily a rock venue, and I was purely doing hip hop at that point. There wasn't even a R&B element to it. So yeah, it was really good. It was a nice feeling to be in that environment that felt so off, but then be so welcomed. And I think that sums up most people's experience of somewhere like GC. It's kind of, you could, unless you know that you're one of those people, you're gonna go in there and think, I don't know. As soon as you get in there, as soon as you get the vibe of the place, all of that goes.
What advice could you give to people who want to perform?
Practice. Practice. Practice
Really?
makes perfect. If you want to perform, practice in your bedroom, in the shower, in front of a mirror, definitely, because there's no point in practicing a performance if you don't know what it looks like.
No.
And then just get out there, go to open mic night, start somewhere. Yeah,
Yeah,
like I
fair,
said,
fair, fair, fair,
begin
fair,
your
fair.
journey, get on a stage.
What have open mics taught you about life?
Mm. Everybody's trying to do something, so do your best and keep on doing the things that you love.
What has music taught you about life?
This is some bullshit.
Hey, listen, I can't help if you're not
It's a
prepared,
very
all right?
therapeutic process, but it's still some bullshit. Yeah, no, music has taught me a lot. It depends on if you mean doing and writing music or if you mean music as in that I consume, because they're two very different answers.
Whatever resonates, whatever comes to mind, man. When I ask you that question, what comes to mind?
Doing music myself, I think it's a beautiful experience, but I do it to teach myself. I do it because just like with the story of writing that poem, it's hearing myself back. It's hearing my own thoughts. Unless I'm like specifically challenging, fitting a criteria to write to, it's very much freely expressed, and it's the thoughts that are at the back of my mind. And music, the melodies and the beats and the things, they just naturally help me get into it and help me bring it out. So yeah, I think it really has taught me to listen to myself, listen to my conscience and my inner voice.
What has poetry taught you about life?
Swap those. No, poetry for me it's very much in the same wheelhouse, because when I write my music, like you play instruments, I'm not a player of instruments, so my musical writing is poetry essentially. Whether
Okay.
I'm rapping, whether I'm writing music, like I say, unless I'm specifically writing to a brief, like I want to create this type of song, or someone's asked for a specific direction for a song to go in, I'm very much expressing via the words that I know, and interpreting either a feeling, an emotion, an event that's happened, or just the thoughts, like you say, from deep inside my mind. So I think the same answer kind of applies to both for me. When I get more into my musical, like playing, writing, I'll let you know.
Give us an update. What has being a mother taught you about life?
Nobody told me it was going to be easy, so why should I kid myself and start thinking it will get any easier? Keep going, keep doing it.
Right
And
on.
so
There you
being a
go.
mother has taught me, do you know what? Everybody goes through life, everybody has the struggles. Your struggle is not the only struggle in the world, and you are never the first person to go through it. So just be your best, teach what you can. Nobody's going to be perfect.
Do you prefer yourself as a mother as opposed to before you were a mother?
Hmm. I can't say I've always been very motherly. I'm the oldest of all my cousins, brothers, sisters, everything. I don't have an older anything. So I've always been quite motherly. I've always had my aunties and everybody's kids from being quite young. I don't think I miss the person I was when I was younger, but it's
Okay.
nothing to do with motherhood, because yeah, that's always been a part of me, whether I had a child or not. I've always had those elements to me. So yeah, I do miss the younger me. She was bold. She was very brave. She didn't give a fuck sideways, left ways, or any other ways. And I miss that. She needed humbling though. So
I'd say that's still in you. I see that.
exactly,
I
that has
think,
been humbled.
yeah, I think you're measured with it, but I still see it. Like sometimes, like when you're telling people to get fucked at open mic, sometimes when they're being rude, it's warranted. And I'm like, yeah, she's still there. I see it.
Well, she never went away fully, but I'm just saying she had like full-time residents at the top, and she had to
Hey,
get
yeah,
put
yeah,
down a few pegs because apparently people don't like you being that overtly honest.
it's choosing your battles, isn't it? It's one of those.
Yeah,
It's like it's yeah. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
but no, she was just more ready for not giving a fuck, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean like she would
Mhm.
just do whatever makes her happy and not really care about anybody else or the consequences. Um, but never had bad intentions. I've never been a bad
Mm.
person,
Mm.
you know. Um, I think the older version of me, like I say, is humbled, but I can't not be feisty. It's part of me, you know. Yeah, but I prefer the younger me. I'm gonna find her and get back to her.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
Mm. Hmm. Life is like a camera. Focus, capture, and develop. Focus on what's important, capture the good times, and develop from the negative. And if things don't work out, take another shot.
Love that. Thank you for that. Very poetic. I wouldn't expect anything less, to be fair. Right.
What can I say? No, yeah, that's about it. I have another one if you want another
Yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Please.
Do not go where the path may lead. Go where there's no path and leave behind a trail. That one,
Mm.
that's kind of what I live by. Like I'm always trying to not follow what everybody else is doing, which is why I find life very frustrating right now because everybody's trying to do freaking everything. I'm just like, where's my slot, please?
Oh my God, you and me both, man.
Mm,
Feel so fucking lost.
uh, well, we'll find it eventually.
What's the biggest life lesson you've learned so far?
Hmm. Slow down, but don't go too slow. Don't go too slow now. That's dangerous. But slow down a little bit. And by that, I mean, pace yourself. I don't mean slow down to a halt and stop what you're doing. I mean, take time to assess what you're doing and take each step that is necessary instead of trying to run, hip, skip, and jump. That's.
As we draw things to a close for today, do you have any upcoming projects or final thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners?
I am. I have a few upcoming projects. A lot of the things that I'm working on this year are to do with youth work and setting up a project, and a lot of the things are
Right on.
based on the Send things that I spoke about. So I'm never moving away from music, but I'm slightly diverging from the musical pursuings, and I'm going to be working on establishing a little bit of an organization, galvanizing some people who understand what's going on with the Sen side of schools and these kids that are called the in between Sen and mainstream, and just trying to raise awareness for that. So look out for things that I'll be doing on that front. Help support it in any way that anybody can. That would be much appreciated. Put people onto me if you know that they've gone through or going through anything similar when it comes to, younger children, older children, and the schooling system at large, homeschooling. I'm always up for any kind of connections in any way we can improve on that front. And musically, we should have a couple more open mic nights and showcases to go throughout the year. So look out for those too.
Been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Finally got it done.
I know. Thank you so much for being patient with me. And yeah,
No, hey,
thanks for
right
having
back
me.
at you, man. Thank you. Thank you very much.
No problem. All right. Well, it's been a pleasure. And yeah, shout outs to you. I really respect everything that you're doing. I see you. Keep going. Keep shining. We'll get there one day, like I say.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Kiesha. And to all the listeners of the Christian Reeve podcast, I hope you enjoyed this show as much as I did. Be safe, be well, and I'll see you in the next one.